You don't need to spend the next 30 to 40 years working a job you hate just to retire in your 70s. In this video, I want to explain to you how you can retire 20 years earlier than the average person. Let's get started. I'm going to start with a disclaimer. Nothing that I say in this video is going to be easy to implement. You're going to have to make changes, you're going to have to make sacrifices, you're going to have to delay gratification. It's going to take a lot of hard work and dedication to do what I'm going to tell you to do in this video, and I'm going through it myself. If you're a Gen Z or a millennial and you apply this framework to your life over the next 10 years, I think you're going to do extremely well financially. The very first thing that I need you to work on is your mindset. You need to believe that you can become wealthy so that you can actually become wealthy. And I just want to give you a formal definition of mindset. A mindset refers to a collection of beliefs, assumptions, and attitudes that influence how you perceive and interpret the world, including your own abilities and potential. It's built on your beliefs and assumptions. These are the fundamental truths that you've grown up with. Maybe your parents influence this, maybe your grandparents influence this. If your parents are constantly telling you that money doesn't grow on trees, or that wealthy people are evil, or we should tax the rich, maybe you never want to become wealthy in the first place, so you're just going to self sabotage. Your mindset is everything when it comes to money. If you don't think that you can become wealthy, then you won't become wealthy because you won't take the actions required to become wealthy. The results of all of your decisions compound over time until the day that you die. For example, you may not believe that you can be healthy, so you may eat like crap from the day that you're born, and by 40, you have diabetes, you have high blood pressure, and you feel terrible. The opposite of this would be somebody who has a positive mindset. They spend the time required to learn how their body can be kept fit for as long as possible. Maybe they eat healthier foods, maybe they exercise more. The decisions that you make regarding your fitness and your health are going to be reflected in how your body looks over the next 10, 20, 30 years. It takes a lot of time and dedication to either get a six pack or to get to 600 pounds. Either way, you're making decisions your entire life, and each decision is going to impact you in the future. This, of course, applies to finance as well. You need to make the right decisions. You need to have the knowledge to make those right decisions in order to be where you want to be in the future. Most people think that they're going to retire at 65, 70, 75. They're going to get their pension from their job. Their government is going to support them. They don't even think about retiring earlier than that. For example, I found this chart that shows you the average retirement savings by age. For people under 35, it was about 50,000 in the US. For people 35 to 44, about 141,000. For 45 to 54, 313,000. 55 to 64, 537,000. 65 to 74, 609,000, and 75 and older had $462,410. If people retire at about 65 and they have $609,000, they're going to need other sources of revenue in order to keep themselves afloat in retirement. Most people could save a lot more than this if they make the right decisions and they put their money into the right investments. By the age of 65, you should have more than this saved if you want to be able to retire. If you apply the 4% rule to this, you're only going to get about $25,000, $30,000 out of this account, and you're going to be able to sustain your retirement for 30 to 40 years. But what can you even buy with $30,000, $35,000? You're going to rely on your government or your pension or whoever can support you forever, because at some point you're going to run out of money. You can also work a part-time job, but do you really want to be working a part-time job when you're 65? So to get ahead of most people, what you have to do is you have to make the right decisions before it's too late. If you're a millennial, you're about 28 to 44 years old. If you're a Gen Z, you're between 13 and 28 years old. What this means is that if you go the regular path, you have at least 20 years until retirement. And this quote right here perfectly summarizes why your mindset is so important. Your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your character becomes your destiny. If you don't think that you can be rich, then you're not going to be rich. If you don't think that you're going to get rich, your destiny is that you won't get rich. The way that I see it, first you think that you can become rich, then you write goals down, then you take actions to make sure that those goals actually work out. Then you build the right habits to make sure that you can continuously work towards those goals over years, over decades. If you've built your habits for a while, they become a part of your lifestyle. They just become you. Once you do things for a while, you get used to it, and your lifestyle is what contributes to what you're going to look like in the future, how your finances are going to be. So, first you think, then you write down your goals, then you take the actions to achieve those goals, then you do the things daily to build on achieving those goals, and then eventually that becomes your lifestyle, and then you become wealthy. For example, if you don't think that you can become wealthy, or if you think that your government is just going to fund your lifestyle for the rest of your life, you may never search for personal finance tips. If you don't search for personal finance tips, maybe you don't realize that your credit card is charging you way too much interest and you never get out of credit card debt and you can never save for the future. On the other hand, if you think that you can become wealthy, maybe you go on YouTube and you search, how do I become wealthy? After you search for those videos, you suddenly get to this rabbit hole where you find out that saving isn't enough. You need to invest a portion of your wealth in order to become wealthy at some point in your life. Keep in mind that all of this starts with your thoughts. If you don't have the right thoughts, you won't take the right actions. If you don't have the right actions, you won't build the right habits. For example, I didn't realize that I was making a lot of the mistakes that I was with my finances until I came across this show on YouTube. And of course, this was a result of me searching for how to improve my finances. If I didn't have the right mindset when I did, maybe I wouldn't be making this video today and I'd be in a terrible financial position instead. So the first part there is develop the right mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, you're building on a foundation of nothing. So work on your mindset and then build on top of that. After you've built a solid foundation with the right mindset, the next step is to create value, to make money. There are two ways to do this. The first one is to spend less than you earn, where you focus on cutting any unnecessary spending. You make sure that you don't spend on things that you don't need. You delay gratification, you cut out your wants, you focus on your needs only. In this case, you're probably living a regular lifestyle. You're earning the median income. You're not really part of the rat race. You don't really care to move up too much. Your goal is to just cut your expenses, live with a bare bones lifestyle so that you don't have to work too much. The problem with this way of living is that you can only cut your expenses to a certain point. After that point, there's no way for you to cut your expenses unless you take a hit on your lifestyle. For example, you may cut all of your streaming services, you may stop going out, you may stop spending time with your friends and family just to cut some expenses so that you can make ends meet. If you don't enjoy your life, then what's the point? I would personally focus on increasing income. And the reason for that is that increasing your income is unlimited. You can keep increasing your income forever. There are an unlimited number of people who are willing to buy from you if you create some kind of product or service. If you work on increasing your income, you can still enjoy your lifestyle while also not struggling too much to make ends meet. The main point here is to spend less than you earn. If you're living beyond your means, maybe you're taking on consumer debt and you're paying 20% interest on a credit card just to pay for your day-to-day expenses. If you do this, you can't win. You're going to be putting so much money towards interest. You're never going to catch up. You're never going to be able to put money towards your investments or your savings for the future. I would personally rather increase my income over having to cut my expenses because at some point, you're not going to enjoy your life anymore. I made an entire video explaining the different types of income. I'll link it in the description below. It also has a breakdown of the income streams that I personally have. I think it's really important to build multiple income streams because then you don't rely on an employer. If your employer fires you and you have 5 income streams, then you still have those 4 income streams to rely on. If you're relying fully on a job to make ends meet and your employer fires you, then you're kind of screwed. Having multiple income streams means that you're not as reliant on your employer and you can make better decisions in your own personal life. I think the best way to build multiple income streams is to solve a problem for the masses and then sell the solution. The main thing that a lot of wealthy people want to save is their time. If you can help wealthy people save time by providing them with a solution, you can use that solution to build multiple income streams. In my own personal case, during lockdowns, I found myself with a lot of free time. So I started posting personal finance content on Instagram, trying to help people to get to an understanding of personal finance without having to read the boring textbooks that I personally had to read. So I started posting every single day, got a lot of great feedback. People wanted consulting services. They wanted to meet with me one-on-one. So I started offering one-on-one consulting. After I started offering one-on-one consulting, I wanted more ways to bring more customers to me. So I started posting on Twitter, and then Twitter led to a newsletter, which then led to webinars, which then led to a private community, and now, of course, YouTube. So solve one problem and then branch that out into multiple income streams. In my personal situation, I can branch this YouTube channel into multiple other income streams, which then make even more money. So the second step here is to create more value, to make more money, solve other people's problems, and they will pay you for the solution. The third step is to keep the value that you created in step 2 in the right vehicle. If you don't have the right vehicle to save your value in, then you're going to go broke. Let's say you just save $500 per month for the next 30 years. You don't invest it, you don't do anything with it. You'll have $180,000. What's that $180,000 really going to do for your future? If your expenses today are $60,000, that $180,000 is going to cover you for maybe a year. Inflation is going to get worse. Your expenses are going to get higher and higher until you can't afford anything. So if you're saving in cash, you're going to see that your wealth is going to disappear. You're going to spend the next 30 years saving $500 every single month. Think about all that delayed gratification. Think about how hard you're working to put that money away, to say no to the things that you can enjoy today, all to save it for 2055 when you finally retire. So you'll have this $180,000, but that $180,000 won't be worth anything. And the reason for that is that the purchasing power of your money is going to decrease over time. So if you save $500 in a bank account, all you're doing is you're saving a currency, you're putting in your bank account, and that currency is going to keep losing value. The reason why it loses value is because more and more of it is going to keep being added to the economy, and more of it is going to chase everything that exists in the economy. So the price of apples is going to go up, the price of chicken is going to go up, the price of everything is going to keep rising forever. Your goal should be to exceed that rate of growth. So, for example, if inflation is 3% and you make 3% on your savings, you're just breaking even. You would need to exceed 3% returns in order to increase your purchasing power over time. So, for example, let's say you invest in the stock market and it gives you 10%, you'll have a lot more money in the future. So, let's run those numbers here. You save $500 per month at a 10% annual growth rate. In 2055, you'll have $1,085,000. So in the first scenario, we said that your annual expenses are going to go from $60,000 to $180,000 because of inflation. In this case, you'll be able to pay for 6 years of your expenses. Now, let's say instead of 2055, you retire in 2065, you'll have about $3 million, and maybe you'll be able to retire at that point. I won't go into the details, but if you want to retire earlier, let's say you want to have $3 million earlier, what you'd have to do is either you'd have to increase your investments or you'd have to increase your annual growth rate on your investments. So in that first scenario where you can invest $500 per month into the stock market at a 10% growth rate, you'll be able to retire in 2065. If you were to find a way to boost your return to 25%, you'd be able to get to $3 million by 2046. Now, this is the hardest part. How do you boost your return from 10% to 25%? How do you make it so that instead of having to retire in 40 years in 2065, you can instead retire in 21 years or 2046? I think the best way to do this is to save in Bitcoin. Study how Bitcoin works, put your wealth towards it, and I think you'll be able to retire earlier because most people don't know how it works. Most people have no allocation to Bitcoin, even though it's the best form of money in the world. If you want to retire earlier than the average person, you're going to have to make decisions that the average person isn't willing to make. Your decision to study Bitcoin and to buy Bitcoin is going to help you retire earlier because the majority of people don't get it yet. There's a really great quote from Wayne Gretzky. He says, "Skate to where the puck is going." I personally think the financial system is going towards Bitcoin. Don't take my word for it, of course. Put in the time to learn how it works. Put in the time to learn why it's so valuable. I mentioned before that if you save $10,000 a year in your bank account, eventually that money that you save is going to be worthless because more and more fiat currencies or government issued currencies can be created. So if you put all of your wealth in your bank account, other people can print more money and they can dilute your savings. This is not possible with Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, there's no way to create more unless you put in time, energy, and resources. So Bitcoin's supply is limited and the majority of people don't have it. And on top of this, it has all of the characteristics that we need money to have. Over the last 14 years, 13 years, 12 years, 11 years, 10 years, 9 years, 8 years, 7 years, 6 years, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, and 1 year, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset in the world. The only time that Bitcoin has lagged behind is over the last 4 years. So over the last 4 years, gold has returned 17% per year, while Bitcoin has returned 14% per year. I personally think this trend is going to continue, and I think that Bitcoin is going to massively outperform gold because it's just way better as money. I think the entire world is going to use Bitcoin to save for the future. So let's go over that framework again. The first step is to develop the right mindset and to build the foundation that you're going to build everything else on top of. The second step is to produce value, to create value, to make money, to increase your income, to make the right decisions, to spend less than you earn. And the third step is to keep the value that you're creating, to store that value, to put it away in a way that nobody else can steal it from you. After you develop the right mindset, maybe you want to start a business that makes you an extra $1,000 per month and you put that entire $1,000 per month into Bitcoin. I think you'll be able to retire much sooner than the average person. I think a 25% annual return from Bitcoin is pretty conservative, but if you can put $1,000 a month into Bitcoin at that 25% growth rate, I think you're going to be pretty happy. I had previously mentioned that if you put $500 per month into Bitcoin at that 25% growth rate, in 2046, you'll have about $3 million. If you were to instead save $1,000 per month in Bitcoin, get that money however you can, trade, flip houses, do whatever you can, you'll be able to get to $3 million by 2043. So this means that if you're 18 today and you plan to work until you're 65, you may be able to retire by 2072 if things don't get a lot worse than where they are today. But if you follow my framework and you actually believe that you can become wealthy, and then you build a business, and then you start funneling the money that you make from that business into Bitcoin, I think you'll be able to retire by 2040, 2045 if you want to. The goal here is to have some freedom, to not have to rely on your employer. Even after you retire, your business may continue to generate revenue and you may never have to sell the Bitcoin that you accumulated in order to sustain your lifestyle. This is another part of that compounding. If you put in the work today, at some point your business is going to create so much value that it'll sustain your lifestyle forever. I'm personally following this framework. I think this framework could apply to Gen X or baby boomers as well. You may just want to skip step 2. You have all the savings already. You may just want to move your savings into Bitcoin. So you go straight into step 3. So step 1, develop the right mindset, build the foundation. Step 2, increase your income, decrease your expenses, whatever combination of that you want to do. And step 3, store your value the right way. I think the best way to do this is to buy Bitcoin. Let's see how this video ages over the next 5 to 10 years. If you see this video in 2030, 2031, 2032, comment below and just let me know what's happening in the world and whether or not this advice worked for you.